For a month, we've been following the emotional civil trial against the parents of the Santa Fe high school shooter. A verdict was reached Monday afternoon. 80% blame on the shooter, 20% blame on the gun company that sold the ammo, and 0% blame on the parents. KPRC2 investigative reporter Robert Arnold has been following this story since day one. He's covered different hearings, including this trial. Robert's joining us live this morning to talk about this verdict. Robert, good morning. Bring us inside the courtroom, sir.
I think many of the parents were shocked when they heard that the parents of the charged gunman would have zero responsibility, according to the jury's verdict.
Yeah.
You looked over one mother, Rosie Stone, before the judge even finished reading the verdict, got up and left the courtroom. She was crying. Others had kind of looks of stun on they were stunned on their face. Some were crying. Others, you could tell, had anger. So it was a real mix and swirl of emotions inside that courtroom when the judge read the jury's verdict. It was not what these families had wanted. They had really hoped for some level of accountability. Since the criminal case remained stalled, they had felt that the civil trial was really their best shot at bringing some level of accountability, and they really didn't get what they had ultimately hoped for.
Yeah, I want to talk about the criminal side of things in just a moment, but I want to go back to a few months ago. I believe it was in April of this year. We saw James and Jennifer Crumbly, the first parents to be convicted in a U.S. mass shooting for preventing their teenage son, Ethan, from possessing a gun and killing 4 students. What precedent does this verdict out of Santa Fe set moving forward?
It really doesn't, because the parents were not found responsible for this particular shooting. It doesn't really set a precedent. Now, had the parents been found civilly responsible for the shooting, even at least in some percentage, that would have set somewhat of a precedent. But since they were not, it really doesn't set a precedent. And I know a lot's been talked about in comparing the Michigan case with the Santa Fe case, and there are some similarities, but there are also different cases. In the Michigan case, they bought the gun for their son. They were told that your son is really experiencing kind of these violent delusions. They brought him in for that drawing that concerned them. And so the jury in Michigan said, well, they not only got him the gun, but they completely ignored what was happening. I think the judge had actually, or one of the prosecutors in Michigan had said, this is not a case about bad parenting. This is about signs that were intentionally missed. In Santa Fe, the accusation was that these parents were negligent, that they just missed the warning signs of their son's mental health, their son's declining mental health, and they didn't do enough to make sure that the guns in the house were kept under lock and key and away from their son. So, like I said, similarities, but really not exactly the same case.
Robert, I want to draw attention to the video we're seeing on our screen right now. We saw the parents of the shooter. We also saw a few different gun cabinets, 2, I think, to be exact. Talk to us about what those moments were like.
So those became very central to the plaintiff's case. So you had several of the weapons stored in that wooden display case, that gun cabinet, and it did lock. And the .38 caliber revolver was also kept in that wooden display cabinet. Then the other one was an actual gun safe, which was kept in the garage. Now, the reason that became central to the case is that's where the guns are from. That's where Dimitrios got his father's 12-gauge shotgun and his mother's .38, which were the 2 weapons used in the mass shooting at Santa Fe High School. So the plaintiffs had argued that, yes, they kept those two, the cabinet and the safe locked, but they didn't keep the keys hidden very well. And it was very easy for Dimitrios to find the keys and get in there. Well, the parents argued, no, we did keep the keys hidden. He just searched the house and eventually found them. We didn't know he was getting into these 2 things, the safe and the cabinet, to get the guns. We didn't notice anything was missing. And ultimately, when we at least spoke to the jury foreperson, they believe the parents did do their best to keep the guns locked up. And because their son had shown no prior incidents or, was heading towards any kind of violence, there was no discipline at school, there were no violent outbursts, there was nothing that the parents said even hinted that he was planning something as awful as this mass shooting. At least the foreperson said that he and his fellow jurors felt that the parents did take reasonable steps to keep the guns locked up, because they were locked in the gun cabinet, they were locked in the gun safe, even though Dimitrios did eventually find the keys. The parents said they kept the keys hidden in a bedroom closet with some other valuable items, and that their son must have spent a long time searching to finally find those keys.
Robert, throughout this trial, did Dimitrios' parents express any sort of regret or remorse on what has happened?
They did. Yeah. They did. I mean, as parents, yes, they absolutely expressed some remorse and regret for what happened, but they were both very direct in saying they don't feel that they were responsible for what happened. They do feel that they did their best to get their son help when they noticed his grades were failing, but again said that he had no discipline problems at school. He had no prior instances of violence. He didn't get in any fights. He kept his mental illness hidden from them. And in fact, there was testimony from psychiatrists that said it is possible for somebody with schizoaffective disorder, as well as delusional and psychotic thinking and thought process disorder, to kind of hide the signs and symptoms of what's happening to them until they have a full-on psychotic break. And the jury did listen to that testimony as well. So I know it's a longer answer, but yes, they did express regret, but they also were very direct in saying they did not feel they were responsible for what their son did.
Robert, we are out of time, but I want to ask you before I let you go, what's next? We know the civil proceeding is over. Any updates on the criminal matter?
As far as civil goes, the attorney said that there's no more planned litigation on that front. The criminal case remains in limbo. The charged gunman, Dimitrios Pagourtzis, remains incompetent to stand trial, and until doctors at North Texas State Hospital can restore his competency, the criminal case won't move forward.
Okay. Robert Arnold, thank you so much for joining us live this morning. We do appreciate it.